there's something about it when you step foot on board where it's just your name gets called as you're walking in and you just feel welcome. And for me, I feel a bit more at home. It's like, okay, cool. They just gave me permission to go and play. They just gave me permission to go and just experience everything that's there and take it all in. And so I cannot wait to have that feeling again and to kind of just sit in the atrium and watch everyone else also playing and experiencing the magic and meeting the characters and dancing to the musicians. And I'm so excited.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast for helping you and your family cruise smarter when the ships are sailing. I'm taking over for Steve right now, Steve's with us. All three of us are here. It's going to be a jam-packed triple host show. Normally we don't do these shows because we talk over each other and it's really hard with three hosts, but we decided why not? It's been a year since COVID started. We might as well just all host it together.
And bring in a guest. Why not have one more person?
We just got to crowd the airwaves. I agree. So yeah, that's me from Burbank. Let's throw it over to Steve to introduce himself.
So welcome back, everybody. Chris, awesome job with the opening. And Chris, I was feeling really bad because Christy and I got to talk to Carrie Hayward from the Disney Wedding Podcast, and I know you missed out on it. But over the weekend, over the weekend I went to a ceremony. Two antennas got married. The ceremony was okay, but the reception was awesome.
I was waiting for your dad joke, and I knew it was coming when you said two antennas got married. But
that gave it away.
That really did give it away, I have prepared a dad joke in retaliation. Why does the mermaid wear seashells, Steve?
I don't know.
Because she grew out of her bee shells.
I feel like we're like Pirates of the Caribbean right now. When you get into the one scene and there's the fort and the ship and they're firing back and forth. I feel like that's you and I now with dad jokes.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring my dad joke game because now I'm a dad. I have a foster baby. In fact, for those of you listening wherever you're listening from, you may hear little baby noises because she's sleeping in my arms right now. So yeah, I get to tell dad jokes because now I'm a dad.
It's a rite of passage, man. I love it. Well, let's bring our guest in. She was with us back, it's almost a year now. Well, a little bit under a year, but she was back with us. She was on the last sailing of the Disney Dream, and that's going to be kind of a little bit of the theme of our show today. We'd like to welcome back to the show Rebecca from Atlanta. How are you doing today, Rebecca?
I'm good. Glad to be chatting with y'all again.
Yeah, we had such a good time talking to you under not the best circumstances. As Disney Cruise Line shut down, you sailed on that last Disney Dream sailing, but we're excited to have you back on the show again today.
Glad to be back. It was nice to kind of get the email. I was like, oh, yes, absolutely. I will gladly come and talk with you about my favorite subject. Everyone's very tired of me going over material is now a year old. So
So we're going to kind of turn the focus. It's been not exactly a year since the last ship docked, but we're moving into March here now, and that was the last month where Disney Cruise Line sailed and everything kind of shut down, right, Christy?
Yes. Can you believe this is still that we're here? That we are here this many months later? I just had the anniversary of 1 day ago or 2 days ago of getting off of the Celebrity Edge 1 year ago, and that ship only had 3 sailings or 2 sailings after mine too. I can't believe we're here.
Do you all remember, at least for me, when I was at work and they were like, okay, everybody, we're shutting down the offices. You're going to work from home for the next 2 weeks. And we were all like, 2 weeks? Oh my gosh, I can't imagine working from home for 2 weeks. And then a year later, and my dining room table has been my office for a year. Literally, I have been working from my dining room table for a full year. I truly could not have predicted that this is happening. And yet, here we are. Also, it's interesting because Christy, sailed on the Edge, and I sailed on the Fantasy just in February, just before they closed the ships. And it's sort of weird to think, at least when I was on my ship, it wasn't really heavily talked about. That COVID was just like, we knew it was a thing, but nobody was like thinking that it could be on the ship or that it could have been very dangerous. Though I imagine, Rebecca, for your sailing, that was different. People knew about COVID and they were like,
Yes, it was the weekend of March 13th, which was when my office shut down as well. So I was on the cruise ship when I got the email saying, you're not coming back. And I haven't been back since either. It was definitely heavily talked about going in, and we weren't even sure if we were going to end up cruising because they shut down Disney World and Disneyland right as we were pretty much getting on board. And so it was like you could start seeing the world kind of shutting down. And we were like, this is going to be very, very different when we come out on the other side. And it was. The world was very different.
You know, when we left for the Edge, there was already a cruise ship where they had a COVID outbreak and that they were holding those passengers in their cabins. And so we did have those thoughts, but we kind of had a good cabin. So we were like, well, if we were locked in this cabin for a while, this wouldn't be the end of the world. We had a pretty good situation going for that particular cruise. But so it was something that was talked about, but it wasn't like you just didn't think that it was going to still, do what it did. And remember,
right.
Like when the kids were sent home, Steve, you were like, no, they're going to be off for this many weeks. And we had it like, I think ours ended up being like 5 because they had their spring break in there. And we're like, there's no way. How are we going to handle this? And now, almost 1 year later, Blake is still just with us.
No.
Oh my gosh. I feel for the parents who had school-aged kids, because that's got to be rough.
Well,
at least we only had one.
And actually, we haven't had it too bad either with our kids being a little bit older. They've actually been pretty spot on, although they're getting ready to start school here, at least our youngest next week, and he's pretty excited to be back with his friends. Well, even though, the ship stopped sailing and we all kind of pivoted and did some different things. This is going to be kind of a hodgepodge of an episode. We're going to talk about a lot of different angles, but I thought we'd start off with some of the things that we did and pivoted to instead. And we'll get to you last, Rebecca, but there's a reason why, because we're going to talk to you a little bit longer. But Christy, what did you do once the ship stopped sailing? How did you fill up your time? What were some of your different experiences that you had?
Well, we ended up selling the house we were living in Michigan. So the things that we did were really just packing boxes and getting rid of things and purging. So, lots of people were cleaning closets. So we started doing that. Some listeners might remember, like, my mug collection was displayed. We showed pictures, and I have a ridiculous number of coffee mugs, and I got rid of some. And that was like at the very beginning of COVID. So little things like that. And then eventually we were like, oh, wow, we can get a lot of money for our house, and our house is actually in demand. We want to move out of this house anyway. So we pushed that up because we could. And so we used it as an opportunity to purge and clean and garage sale and just, random stuff like that. And so that was a lot of what we did. It was very different to be home for so long because we're used to traveling and getting nothing accomplished because we're spending all of our time traveling.
Well, you get your life back in order a little bit at home, so that's always good to do that as well. Chris, you and Seth went out and did some fun things too.
So I think from the moment I met you, I always talked about how I wanted to start a family, but I wasn't exactly sure what that looked like for us in terms of having kids. And honestly, in the weirdest way possible, the pandemic is what pushed us towards realizing we could foster to adopt, because I wasn't traveling for work as much. I knew I was going to be home a lot, and I knew that if there were ever a time to have a newborn baby where you have to wake up all night, it was when I was home to do that. And so one way that we pivoted was on that personal front. We changed everything about our lives, and now we have our second placement. We had our first placement, who was only with us for about a month, back in October, and she was a sweet, sweet 7-month-old baby, but she ended up being placed with a family member, and then we waited a while, and let's see, December 21st, we brought home our current little baby. So she was a Christmas miracle baby, and she's been with us ever since. And so that's one thing that we pivoted. I also think listeners will remember our trip to Yosemite. We pivoted by going to a national park, which we loved so much that we decided that's going to be our little summer trip again. Because we have a baby and it's really hard to travel with a baby this young, but we figure, it's not too far, it's not too difficult to get to Yosemite from where we are. So we decided, we're going to go again this year. So that's our current plan. Also, some friends of mine are going to social distance half marathon run in Yosemite. What? I don't know why, but we're doing that. So yeah, it's last year's theme is carrying into this year, I find. But that was our theme, having a family and doing things we wouldn't have done normally. So we did go to Yosemite, which would bring me to you, Steve, because you also national parked it up. So what did your family's pivot look like during the pandemic? Because you had a bunch of amazing cruises planned.
Yeah, we were supposed to go to Greece in Europe, but we ended up swapping that into going to Yellowstone and visiting Yellowstone and Jackson Hole, which was just amazing. And it was, what's been kind of cool, just like, Christy, you getting your house kind of in order, and Chris, starting a family, holy cow, that's huge, is that this was something that was like on our list, but I don't think we would have ever checked it off, in all honesty. It would have been, because it was like so much lower down on the list compared to other things, but we just had a great time out there in the national parks, just like you did. We made skiing a priority for us this winter, so we've been doing a lot of skiing, kind of family skiing, which we've never been able to do before because the kids usually they're in sports and there's so much stuff going on with school, but because they're online school, we've been able to do a lot of things like that we've never been able to do before. So I think the good thing that has happened for us in COVID is it's given us time to explore in areas that we have not been able to do. And it's just been a blast, so spending time together. Although, I think like all of us, we could probably...
It's a lot of togetherness.
Sometimes it gets to be a lot of togetherness. And I feel like I'm cutting you out, Rebecca, but I promise we're going to get you. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to just like look at each one of the 4 ships and just go back and look at their final sailings. And do one of you guys want to start off? If not, I can start off with the Magic.
Why don't you take us, Steve?
Okay, so the Magic's final sailing was on March 9th. It was a 5-night Bahamian cruise out of Miami like she normally does. And a couple things that kind of seemed fun to me looking back at it is it was a Marvel Day at Sea, something that I've never done. Chris, you had that planned, right?
So no, we did do a Marvel Day at Sea.
That's right. Why am I drawing a blank on that?
Out of Miami, actually.
Anyway, so it was a Marvel Day at Sea.
Well, that's where the Marvel Day at Seas are.
Right. Anyway, so it was a Marvel Day at Sea. It went to, left Miami, went to Key West the next day, which right now that's kind of a boiling point down in Florida, whether Key West is going to open back up to ships the size of the Magic again or not. So maybe this might have been the last time she showed up at Key West. Then she had a day at sea, went to Castaway Key. That day at sea was the Marvel Day. Then she went over to Nassau, back to Miami, and that was it. But one of the things I thought would be kind of cool to look at was the movies that were being played in the Buena Vista Theater then, which was Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War. So Endgame had just come out roughly that time in the year. Captain Marvel, Frozen 2, Electric Boogaloo, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, Onward, Star Wars Episode 9, The Call of the Wild, and Thor Ragnarok. So not a lot of movies that come out.
What was the last thing you just said?
Thor Ragnarok. So yeah, Onward. It showed up in the movies, right? For a couple screenings before everything shut down. Onward was the last movie that we saw in a theater.
Huh.
So yeah, that would have been the new movie. A lot of those other ones, Steve, I think were probably only showing on that ship because it was a Marvel Day at Sea.
Oh, that's a good point there too. Right.
Yeah.
So Christy, why don't you take us with the Wonder, since she was doing your sailing, and of course we had Sarah on. She was actually on this sailing, and I'll go back and look up the episode and get that out. But why don't you start with the Wonder there, Christy?
Yeah, I had a couple of clients too on this sailing. It was departed March 6th from New Orleans, traveling 14 nights through the Panama Canal to San Diego. And this ship experienced some of the fun where they had issues with ports and had to, because the world was really starting to shut down halfway through their cruise. Their cruise actually was cut short by a day And then they also missed like 2 to 3 ports on their way. So it was a very different experience. Now, my guests were very happy to rebook and go and plan another cruise, which is probably not going to happen for them this summer, but they'll push that to next summer. It is just, amazing to think. And it overnighted in San Diego. So some people left the day it arrived. Some people still stayed and was like sitting on the ship for the day, but while in port, but still on their cruise. It's just amazing to me.
Which, just out of happenstance, that weekend I was running the San Diego half marathon, which got canceled, but we already had our hotel booked. And so I went and ran the half marathon course just without it being an official half marathon.
Wasn't it your first half marathon too?
It was my first non-Disney half marathon.
Oh, okay.
In January, actually, when we first met Steve, that was my first half marathon. But what I would say is we got to see the Wonder come in on that exact cruise literally right outside of our hotel window, because we were staying at a hotel across the street from the terminal. There were some people were allowed to leave the ship, or they were told you can stay on for the last day if you have nowhere to go. So it was weird seeing, like the water slides and the people who chose to stay on the Wonder for that extra day, knowing that that was probably going to be their last sailing. And then they proceeded to keep the ship in San Diego for a long time. I don't know if it was for a whole week or more, because they didn't really have anywhere to take her. It was just well, we're not going to go back through the Panama Canal right now. Yeah. So what do we do with this ship that we repositioned? And now all these cruises are getting canceled.
Unfortunately, they had a small COVID situation on that ship too.
They did, yeah. A lot of people got sick with COVID or tested positive after getting off of the ship.
Yeah, I don't know that it was a lot of people. I know that it was some people.
It did leave from New Orleans, and New Orleans really had a bad outbreak after there, so that could have been...
Right.
They left during Mardi Gras week, or right after Mardi Gras, so you had a massive amount of people who were in New Orleans traveling and then got on a ship, so it's not exactly surprising.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear Sarah's talk about it, she was on that last sailing. That's episode 139. You can go back and look at that one. So that leads us next to the Fantasy, Chris. The Fantasy left on March 7th. Why don't you talk about that cruise a little bit?
So the Fantasy left on March 7th for a 7-night Eastern Caribbean. The Eastern Caribbean is many of our listeners' favorite Fantasy itinerary because it includes 2 days at sea on the way there. And then they book it to Castaway Cay and have only 1 day at sea on the way back. But because there's that extra sea day, a lot of people who prefer sea days will go on these Eastern Caribbeans. It did make its normal stops. So it stopped at Castaway and then went back to Port Canaveral. So it was the second to last ship to stop at Castaway before everything ended. And Rebecca will tell us about the Dream stopping at Castaway, which was the last to stop there. So yeah, it basically had a normal itinerary. And then, once it got to Port Canaveral, it stopped sailing. The Fantasy did not sail again.
I mean, it's sailing, technically. It's just not sailing.
It's doing
passengers.
Things. It's on the ocean.
It is on.
There is a DCL officer on Instagram. Her username is Catherine_278_. And she is an officer on the Fantasy, currently on the Fantasy. They actually stop once a month at Castaway Cay now, and the crew get to have a little bit of a afternoon ship day, and they use that day to also bring the supplies to the workers that live on the island. Bring them food, bring them supplies, things like that. So these workers are still there even through this process. And it's just really interesting to watch the process. And while I'm on this random tangent of Instagram people, if you guys are not following Captain Kate McHugh of the Celebrity Edge, you should, because she's phenomenal to watch as well. She'll show the food that the the crew are making for the other crew. So, but this food looks like the food we would eat. Like it's all pretty and decorated. And this is just for themselves to eat. So I think that's awesome. And they'll show the process of going through the cabins and turning on all the water, flushing all the toilets, turning off the water. Watch her TikTok, I guess. She's on TikTok, but I'm too old for that, I think. Also, she'll post it to Instagram so you can watch like what the ships are doing right now to keep them going so that they can cruise again with people once it's time.
Also, I can vouch for her. She's amazing. And she has like a weird cat, like one of those hairless cats that lives in her cabin. And
yeah, that cat creeps me out.
She also talks about what it's like to be a woman in this industry as a captain, because there are very few women who are captains of ships.
We have Captain Minnie, of course, but we don't get as many interviews with her. We don't get the interviews, so we have to take Captain Kate's interviews.
Well, and, you know, DCL decided to do something absolutely baffling and put Captain Mickey on the Castaway Cay medal this year, which is very frustrating, but whatever. But yeah, I will endorse what Christy's saying. Her Instagram, her TikToks, all of her social media accounts are like pulling back the curtain of what it might be like to be a captain on a ship. And also, she does fun stuff literally about like what it's like to be a captain and a woman. Like recently she had a TikTok about how the uniforms that the captains are required to wear are not designed for women's bodies. And so she buys specific things to adjust the uniforms so that they still look good on her body, because, again, these uniforms are not designed for her body, which I'm like, yes, bring awareness. Yes, let's have more of this. Also, am I making this up, or did Commodore Tom retire?
He did.
Right? Yeah, so he retired, which means Disney and The Wish is coming, which means Disney is looking for 2 new captains. Can we get our first DCL, or our second, sorry, Minnie, our second DCL captain who is a woman? Because I would love to see that. Disney's all about holding up different identities and celebrating diversity, and I think it would be great to have a woman captain. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox because we still haven't heard from Rebecca, and we're like 40 minutes in.
I think that would be so cool. And just imagine, like, yes, they have both Minnie and Captain Mickey to look up to, but just imagine, like, what that would be like for a little girl to see a female in that role on the ship. Like, that would just be incredibly cool.
I can tell you, being in the airline industry, when you fly with a woman or female captain or a woman first officer, whether I was the first officer or the captain, I always make them say goodbye at the door, because it's amazing. They don't get their, like you guys said, they don't get the notoriety that they should. But the little girls' faces, and not just little girls, women's faces too, when they realize that they had a woman pilot on that flight, it's just amazing. So I could imagine it would just be such for Disney to be able to have something. I can't talk right.
To have that kind of representation.
To have that type of representation, exactly, especially for all the guests on board, and it would just do wonders for them. So let's finally turn to Rebecca. Rebecca, you were on the last segment of The Dream. It left on March 13th. For everybody who wants to go back and listen to that episode, it was episode 164. But Rebecca, why don't you tell us about some of your memories of that trip?
Yeah, it was such a sweet trip. Obviously in very bizarre times, but it was the first trip we got to take as an entire family. So it was my parents and both of my brothers. We were celebrating my little brother's 18th birthday. And so it was just a nice little weekend getaway is what we were hoping it was going to be. And it was, but it was pretty neat. We got to go to Castaway Cay on Saturday and then had a day at sea on Sunday. And then we're back to the new reality Monday morning. But it was really cool. We did a few different firsts while we were there. We rode bikes on Castaway Cay, which we'd never done before. And that was just honestly one of my favorite things, because we were just silly and singing songs along the trail and just kind of being kids again, even though technically that day all 5 of us were adults. So it was just really cool to have that experience. And then that was also one of the last times, if not the only time in the last year, now that we sat down for family dinner, not at our own dining table. So those meals were really special. We were celebrating birthdays. We were just kind of enjoying being together. And then we also, that last evening, I think it was one of the last evenings, was the pirate night. We got everyone up dancing. And so again, just kind of experiencing that playfulness and sort of being a kid again, and just the freedom that I think Disney often gives us as adults who have very serious lives sometimes, to just play and enjoy and let loose. So those were just the things that stuck out to me from that trip. And we like to go back through and look at the pictures. My mom brings it up all the time. We're seeing some family a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, have I shown you the pictures from our cruise yet? And so we had to show some of those photos.
So I know that as a family, you guys, I know you've been on a lot of cruises, and you said this is the last one is your whole family together, but did you guys cruise together as a family?
I had cruised with just my parents before that, and then with just my mom a couple of times. So this was my mom's 4th cruise, my dad's 2nd, and then my brother's 1st with Disney.
Okay. So I know, and maybe this is a crazy question to ask, but how have you guys filled the void from this past year? Because I know that you had plans to, like a lot of us, to, go back down and cruise with Disney again. How have you kind of pivoted, and what have you done?
Yeah, it's been some creative things. My mom, for her birthday, which was in April, she really wanted to be back on a cruise and enjoy that experience, and just, was very, very sad that we didn't even have one planned at the time, and we're in the early weeks of COVID and all at home and not really sure what was going on. So we did our best to bring Disney Cruise to her. And so I made up some menus that looked like Animator's Palette menus, because those were the easiest to design, because you just take clip art of Mickey's and put them all over it, and then find the Disney font, maybe legally or not legally, allegedly. But designed those and kind of just made dinner. And then she wanted a cheesecake for her birthday cake, and so I put the Disney Cruise logo on it. So it was just really little things, but we did our best to bring DCL to home.
That's adorable.
Yeah. And then at Christmas, she gave us all, I have it on my desk now, but she gave us all Disney Dream ornaments. So just little things, kind of reliving the memories. But yeah, it's been sad not having that, but we've tried to still, I was telling someone earlier, I was like, we try to not just sit around and wait for the world to kind of totally go back to normal. It's like, what can we still do safely and smartly to explore and kind of get away from what's becoming a bit of a grind sometimes. So we've done a lot of like cabin rentals, because those seem to be relatively safe. We bring our own food, we go on hikes. I've probably done that now 3 or 4 times, sometimes with just my brother, sometimes as a whole family. But we're really lucky. I'm in Georgia, my family's in South Carolina, so we kind of just meet in North Georgia, which is about halfway, and just usually spend a few days together and then go back to work.
That's really nice.
So you've been working from home the whole time too, so yeah, it's nice to be able to get out and explore nature a little bit and spend some time with your family that way. Have you thought about going down to Walt Disney World at all since you're kind of closer, or have you?
I haven't been able to go. I think part of it is, while I know it's pretty safe and they're doing everything they can to kind of take precautions and people are largely wearing masks and things, I think it would be really sort of bittersweet for me to go and like it not be normal and not kind of have the memories that it might have used to have. I was actually talking to the guy I'm dating today, and I was like, I don't know, at some point I might break down and just be like, we need to go to Disney, because we're at the point where it looks like cruises are going to be still many months away, and I really need my Disney fix.
I've been like sheltering in Florida for the winter, and Blake's in virtual school. It's super easy to do. We've been in random Airbnb rentals and things like that, which, some of those have been an adventure. But it is weird how normal it feels after a little while to be like, okay, we're running to the parks, grab your mask. Like, what mask do you have? And waving at the cavalcade of Mickey and Minnie, and even for my son, from a distance, as opposed to, or even if you're going to do a character dining, they're more at a distance and there's no hugging and there's no autographs, but yet somehow it feels normal now. it's like it quickly, there's obviously things that are missing and there's no nighttime entertainment, but for somebody who can't stay up at night, that's not the biggest loss on the planet. But for others, obviously, that's just awful. But it still feels magical. And the cast members and most people really are wearing their masks properly. And so also that's another thing is kind of at dark, we leave anyway, because maybe that's where more noses are sticking out or more walking and drinking is occurring. But the cast members are thanking us for being there and for coming. And that feels special as well. And obviously it's a calculated risk. And so some families are just not going to do it at all, or some are going to try to do more just outdoor activities as opposed to any indoor or switching, but paying attention to sort of what's going on around you. It has stayed safe for us so far. It's been a really cool experience.
You didn't sell her, Christy.
No, I think I'm largely... I'm definitely closer to wanting to go than I was maybe a few months ago. And part of that just comes with time. It also comes with the normalcy that we're starting to develop. Like, it doesn't feel that weird anymore for me to go into the grocery store and just always have a mask. And I've always got a spare one in my car and in my purse. And you just it does become more normal. I personally am starting to see more people kind of also find that to be normal. And so it's like, okay, cool. Everyone in Publix today was wearing a mask. And it's like, that's great. So I know that's not always true everywhere, but in places that are trying to enforce that, and I think Disney is one of them, you're much more likely to see that.
And I didn't mean to make light of it whatsoever. Everybody's got their different tolerances as far as what they feel comfortable with and what they would want to do. Well, let's kind of turn a little bit to the future then. With you, Rebecca, do you guys have a cruise booked? And if it is it on the Dream?
We don't have anything booked. We were trying to look at different school schedules. I've got a brother who's at one college, another brother who's getting his PhD at another college, and then my dad is also a teacher at college, and they're all on different schedules. So it is impossible to actually find a time when my entire family can cruise. But we were trying to find something perhaps this summer, optimistically hoping that maybe in August it would actually, this was a couple of months ago when we were talking about it, but we were like, yeah, maybe August. And we actually looked at some sailings on the Fantasy because we were like, it's been a year. We've got money in savings. Let's go for it. Do a 7-night or something like that. But it's looking more and more like just some of those cancellations are rightfully so getting pushed. I think I saw today that there were some sailings in August that had started being canceled, which is not surprising. And I could be making that up. So if I am, please cut it.
Europe in August has been, the beginning of August has been canceled.
So I'm not super optimistic that August will happen. I was trying to convince, I was trying to convince the family to just go ahead and have something booked and then we could deal with it if it didn't. But I think they're not quite as brave as I am. They're like, we're not going to get our hopes up just to have them crushed a little bit. So we will cruise again. Absolutely. As soon as it's safe to. I'm about to go on the longest one I can possibly afford.
Yeah, I think that's fantasy sailing. A 7-day sounds perfect. 3 sea days and 2 amazing islands in Castaway Cay. Well, in between all this stuff, we found out about the Disney Wish, Chris, and the Disney Wish lobby statue. You want to talk about that quick, Chris?
The Disney Wish previously announced their Hull statue, which was Rapunzel. And it had been a big mystery what was going to be inside of the ship. And then suddenly, kind of out of nowhere, I don't even remember what the occasion was, but suddenly they released this video of a camera sort of flying through the digital representation of the lobby, landing on the pedestal where a ship statue normally would go, and revealing a golden Cinderella, which, cool. That's an exciting thing. We've never had a Disney princess. Oh, no, not true. We had Ariel. So, yeah, that's cool. And also, I will say, it looks different, just a different style than the other statues. the other statues have had sort of like a bronzy,
like
looking,
a matty,
yeah,
found under the sea look.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they've been more on. Oh, sorry. They've been more on like a pillar or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like high up, smaller. But the renderings, at least for this one, are showing like a sparkly golden Cinderella that's basically like human size, like a life size if she were an adult person Cinderella, which I'm like, that's cool. I would love to see that. But who knows? The thing is, the question becomes, will there be some sort of hint at what the following two ships will have in their lobby statues? Like, is this now hinting at like a princess theme? Though maybe not, because the Magic had Mickey, which makes sense for ship. But then the Wonder was like, don't worry, we're gonna go new school with Ariel. And then Dream and Fantasy decided to mix everything up and do Donald, which whatever. And then Minnie Mouse, which that's cool. So I feel like it's all over the place with these lobby statues. So maybe there's no rhyme or reason, and the next one will be something. Maybe the next one will be like Pete's Dragon or something completely out of nowhere.
So Rebecca, what were your thoughts with it being Cinderella? Were you excited about it? And who would you? I don't want to say if you weren't, but who would you be excited about with one of the other ones?
I am actually very excited that it's Cinderella. That is probably the movie or the story that like just resonated with me so much growing up, and I watched over and over and over. I recently got to watch the Whitney Houston version of Cinderella again, and just I know that Disney's representation on the ship is going to be different than having Brandy as Cinderella, but like it was just so fun to kind of just relive that again, and like I watched that on repeat growing up. And so I'm excited that it's Cinderella. I also love when I met Cinderella actually on this last cruise. At the time I was not dating anyone, and she thought that perhaps Prince Charming had a cousin that might be perfect to hook me up with. So she was going to write him a letter.
And so it sounds like that came true.
It did come true. I've met my version of Prince Charming, I believe. Yeah, it was really, really sweet. So I just have really fond memories of Cinderella. So I love it. I also think it could actually be pointing to a bit of a theme. Because if you think about it, with the name of the wish, that often, to me at least, goes back to kind of true, like, original Disney with some of the princessy kind of fairy tale vibes. And then you have Rapunzel, who is a princess on the outside of the ship. You also, we think there might be some other princessy-like art throughout the ship, perhaps with Moana or some other things that we've seen in the background. And so to me, I'm starting to see perhaps a little bit of a theme of perhaps going back to a little bit more of traditional, like fairy tale-esque roots with the design and the theming. And I think that would be really fun and sweet, because we do have with some of the more recent ships with the Donald statue and with the Minnie statue and things. And those are wonderful. Like, that is Disney. But there's some of us, I think, who think about it a little bit more so in the princess fairy tale type of realm as well. So it could be really fun.
That's really beautiful the way you said that, Rebecca. Is there a restaurant that you think would be kind of cool to kind of go along with that princess theme that you'd like to see? We've already got Rapunzel's Royal Table on the Magic and Tiana's Place. Anything along that way that you'd like to see?
The only other thing I could think is that I could see them doing perhaps a seafood type theme, which I know would not be for everyone, but they could do that with Ariel. But they could also honestly recycle Rapunzel's Royal Table or recycle Tiana's, and it would be a perfect fit for that theme as well. Not that I want them to. I would love to see something new and different. Yeah, I think there's a lot they could do with it. But if we were going completely outside of the theme, I know a lot of people, probably y'all as well, have brought up the idea of a Coco-themed restaurant with Mexican food. And I would be so on board with that.
And the music, oh my gosh.
It would be
they could have a mariachi band on board, just living everyone's best life.
I am putting on that soundtrack as soon as we get off of this. I have to.
I kind of like the Mulan idea too, maybe with a Chinese-themed restaurant, maybe a teppanyaki sort of restaurant. I think that would be kind of cool. A lot of the other cruise lines have things like that. Not to follow along the other cruise lines, but I think that would be kind of a neat idea as far as princess themes go.
Yeah, I mean, they can do so much. I don't think they'll do anything kind of Cinderella-esque or even like Beauty and the Beast theme, just because you have Royal Palace, you have, Royal Palace, Enchanted
Royal
Garden,
Table. It's
Royal
all the
Table, Lumiere, whatever they're called now.
Tritons and Lumieres, yeah.
Yes. So you have a lot of restaurants that can already ladder up to Cinderella or to a French theme or something. So
I imagine, though, every ship has that restaurant. So it has to still have the Royal Table
It'll have something.
Restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think everybody, like they did introduce that Enchanted Garden theme for the Dream class ships, which I don't know if I'm being cynical, but like I think they could execute something even more high concept and cool in that space than the like blooming flower lamps or whatever.
Same.
I do think doing on the larger ships, doing a dinner show is more complicated because sightlines and just being able to hear the performers very well and all of that. That's maybe one of the reasons why they haven't done it yet on those older ships. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why they changed the show for animators, because that whole Sorcerer Mickey marching through the restaurant takes on a different vibe when it's a giant restaurant with walls and pillars and blocking your view everywhere.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry everyone. We are going to get someone who leaves a comment about that, I'm sure. But my point is, it'll be interesting to see what they can do on the Wish, maybe if they purpose-built and purpose-designed, right? Because a lot of people said that they wouldn't be able to design a theater that had good sightlines on a cruise ship, and Disney did that. So honestly, I think they could figure it out. But what exactly it will look like, I don't know. I'm holding out for a Coco restaurant myself.
Love it. That's what the Imagineers get paid for, though, right? They're going to make it absolutely amazing.
Well, the thing that I've kind of taken away from this episode is, even though we've gone a year now without cruising, we're all still pretty excited about it, which I think is kind of cool, and looking forward to it. And all of us were able to kind of, pivot around and change and do some different experiences with our families, whether, it was up at Yosemite with you and Seth, Chris, and Rebecca, you and your family getting together in Georgia, and the different cabins and stuff like that, and our family heading out to Yellowstone. Christy, you guys are down in Florida enjoying yourselves this winter, which is amazing. I kind of want to keep looking forward then, I guess. So as you look at that next cruise, and we can just kind of go around, what experience are you guys most looking forward to when you get back on your next cruise? I'll throw it to Chris first.
This is probably going to feel like a little bit of a cop-out, but the thing that I'm most looking forward to are the people. Just like talking to people who work on the ships and spending time in the Cove Cafe. I don't know why, but I feel like the barista at the Cove Cafe is always like the A+ person on the ship who's like so much fun to talk to. For me, the barista in Cove Cafe, Steve, is the equivalent of the bartender at Meridian to you. I feel like where like I could just sit and talk to that barista at Cove all day. But anyway, my point is just getting back with that crew. Over the years, I've made friends with people, and we keep in touch on Facebook, and hearing how losing their jobs and, having to suddenly, figure out where they're going to live and what they're going to be doing has been really devastating for a lot of the crew. I just think when we get back to sailing, having all of those people who sort of become like extended family back, in that space is the thing I'm most looking forward to, no matter which ship it is. And yeah, that's my answer.
I love that answer. Mine's a little bit on that theme too as well. How about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, I think, again, it feels a bit like a cop-out, but the atmosphere of it all, there's something about it when you step foot on board where it's just your name gets called as you're walking in and you just feel welcome. And for me, I feel a bit more at home. It's like, okay, cool. They just gave me permission to go and play. They just gave me permission to go and just experience everything that's there and take it all in. And so I cannot wait to have that feeling again and to kind of just sit in the atrium and watch everyone else also playing and experiencing the magic and meeting the characters and dancing to the musicians. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, the atmosphere, Rebecca, is just amazing, isn't it? I think the music is one of those things that I miss, wandering around the ship and just hearing the music in the background that kind of sets that atmosphere as well. Christy, how about you?
Clearly, my answer has to be the people and the experience and the people watching, right? Or else I'm going to be shunned and kicked off the podcast. But honestly, like...
The concierge lounge is what you want to
The popcorn.
100%.
Gluten-free fried brie.
Fried brie. Oh, that is the experience that I want to have again. Oh, my gluten-free fried brie. But, there is something to be said about just picking up the sounds and like walking through the hallway and hearing the Disney music. I need that in my life. It's been too long. I need some Disney music walking through a ship hallway again.
It's different in the park. You may have
just stolen Steve's because Steve always talks about that music.
It's different than the parks, isn't it? I mean, you've got that music in the parks, but it's different on a ship for some reason, and I don't know why.
It is. And do you know they are not listening to that music right now? They have it like on 80s and 90s. And I'm like, what?
I mean, if you worked on that ship, Christy, you would be happy for that.
I want to know who controls the playlist now. Who gets to make that decision every day?
It's not the Imagineers.
I'm going to ask that question, and I will report back on the DCL Instagram one day.
Oh, I like that question, too. Well, I'm going to kind of go something similar with you guys, too, is that the one thing that I'm looking forward to is going back and having dinner on the ship with the crew, because just to your point, Chris, the barista in the Cove Cafe, I mean, there's just nothing like the service teams that you get in the dining rooms, and we've just had so many magical experiences with the kids and them, whether it's Animator's Palette or Lumiere's or Triton's or whatnot, and there's just something magical about going down to dinner, being able to pick out some amazing food, and just the fun and entertainment that the serving team provides you and your kids as you kind of have that time together. And then for our family, we kind of all go different places afterwards. So.
Right, so it's like your time to get together and be together on the ship. Also, you really like that they cut up your steak for you.
I do like that. And I also really enjoy the fact that the ketchup, they kind of squirt it out in a Mickey shape for my French fries. So
that's so nice of them, really taking care of their older customers.
I'm not even sure where I'm going to go with this one, so I'm just going to leave it there. So I think
Can I just say, if you're an adult, don't order French fries in the dining room.
Oh,
they're not very good.
No, my public service announcement.
Yeah, the French fries are pretty good up on the pool deck because they're fresh. But in the dining room, they've been sitting under a heat lamp.
Because we do typically late dining, we will go around like 5 o'clock or so, maybe a little earlier, and get a huge plate of French fries and honey mustard, and that is my favorite snack in the middle of the afternoon.
Oh, so are you not supposed to do that if you have early dining? Apparently I'm doing it wrong.
Highly recommend it no matter the time of day.
But Christy, you'd have to do it at like 4 because isn't early dining at like 5?
Yeah, so it's perfect.
The thing about early dining is it's too early and late dining is too late. I wish there was like a 7 p.m. option.
Hey, Grandpa. So listen.
That's why you book Palo.
Yeah.
That's true, Rebecca.
Let me just say there's one advantage of being celiac. I get fresh French fries every time I want them from the whatever Pete's Boiler / whatever the heck the place is called.
Pete's Boiler Bites.
Yeah, but you know what else? You also get that gluten-free bread, which I'm not a huge fan of.
But you know what? After it's been so long since you've had normal bread, you kind of think it tastes good. So.
Well, but because of my banana allergy, it's all over my account, I guess. So wherever I go, they know that about me. And I think whenever they flag you as an allergy, they're just like, we're going to give you gluten-free bread. And I'm like, no, I don't need the gluten-free bread. I can have gluten in my bread. It's fine.
As long as it's not banana bread.
Yeah. Which they do make banana bread up at Cabanas.
Oh, really?
So it could be cross-contaminated in the oven or something, and they're like, don't want to risk it.
Do you know what my pro tip is for cabanas? You can ask them to take the sausage from the buffet and throw it back on the grill to like make it a little crispier.
Ooh.
And then you get like hot, fresh sausage from the back.
Really? I've never done that.
Yeah. Pro tip.
Look at all the advice you're getting today. I love it. So I think we got time for this one quick. We'll go through this one real quick. What's something that you haven't done on board that you'd like to do next time you get back on the ship? And I've got mine, but go ahead, Rebecca.
Palo brunch. We talked about it the last time, and I still very, very much want to go. And now we're at a point where I'm like, I want Palo brunch. I want Palo dinner. I want to go to Remy. I want to do the dessert tasting at Remy. Like, I just want to do all of it. I want everything.
And Steve, you have to do that too, because you haven't done Palo brunch yet either, have you?
No, I have not done.
Palo brunch is life.
It is the best. It's probably the single best meal that you can get, at least on the classic ships.
The worst part is that wasn't even going to be my answer, but I love that. So.
Well, that's fine. You have to do it. Maybe you just, because it's something you must do at this point, because you cannot host this podcast and not have done Palo brunch. So therefore you don't have to mention it. But my answer is that on my November cruise, I was going to go to Remy for brunch.
For the first time?
Yes. I haven't done Remy. My husband is not in the mood for anything Remy related at all. Or he's just not adventurous. That is not his jam. So instead of paying all that money, I was just never going to go either. But I had met people in the Facebook cruise group, and we were going to do like a group brunch that of course never happened. But I'm going to. That's on my wish. Baby sounds. I love it.
Sorry. She woke up.
Chris, you got time to do yours?
What are we asking?
Experience that you, or something you haven't done on board that you're going to do the next sailing.
Something I haven't done. Ooh, I should have thought about this. You know what I've never done? I've never watched a movie on Funnel Vision.
You just
ever. Oh no! Wait,
that's in the notes. Steve told us that's the example.
I don't read the notes. Let's go back. I'm going to do a different one.
No, you can do that one.
No, but you should definitely use the intro, me saying I don't read the notes.
You should.
But, okay, let me pick a different one because I don't want to steal your thunder.
I at least read the notes while we're recording.
What have I never done?
He does this. He prepares, and we're the worst because we don't really look at it.
Oh, I made my own notes.
Look at you.
Oh, look at how organized.
I'd like to announce today that we have a new co-host, Rebecca. Christy and Chris have been called away to bigger things.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. So what have I never done? What I have never done properly is, I don't know, Steve.
I can do mine. Mine's
anything.
Yeah, you do yours and I'm going to say mine. You do yours and I'll say mine.
Mine's just the Funnel Vision. I just think it'd be cool. I've moments have walked along we all have, and something's playing and it catches your eye and you sit down and watch it for 10 minutes and then you kind of move on. I'd really like to take that whole just experience to watch a classic Disney film on the Funnel Vision. So, Chris, now your time's up. You got to pick something.
So what I have never done is a spa treatment. And I think that would be amazing because, first of all, they have those couples verandas that have their own hot tub and all of that. Also, from now on, we'll probably be cruising with children. So extra nice to throw the kid in the Small World nursery and then go spend some time at the spa. So my vote is get a spa treatment at Senses Spa.
Highly recommend, and if you need a built-in babysitter, I will come. I'll book my own room and I will watch your kid for you.
Okay, do you watch older kids too?
Yes, absolutely.
We'll make sure we put all her information in the show notes. Yeah. If anybody else out there needs a babysitter on your next cruise,
I might have to start trading out, maybe at least y'all pay for my mixology class or something post watching the kid.
Yeah, you definitely got to get.
Yeah, we'll gladly give you a mixology class. Those Small World nursery rates are not cheap.
No.
Well, neither is for cruise cabin.
So,
I'm not asking for y'all to comp the cruise cabin. I'll do that myself, but there may have to be some other trade-offs.
Well, Christy and I found out that we can sail for free if we become wedding photographers and get hired to go on people's cruises with them. So I'm seriously reconsidering my career and thinking about becoming a wedding photographer.
Well, and also
with brides, though.
Yeah, no,
but also someone who's like an expert in Disney cruises and doing wedding photography for DCL specifically. Like, I feel like most of the folks I've heard who have done it, it's been like their very first cruise. It's like, can you imagine the type of business you could get?
You could have a niche market.
If only we could take pictures.
Well, we threw this question out on Facebook today, and we got a bunch of answers. So I thought I really wanted to read these as well for everybody out there that was thinking about going on a cruise and what they would like to experience next time they get on board. Why don't you start off? You just read their first name, Chris. Why don't you start off?
Yeah,
Chris?
Well, I'm gonna say Lake from Lakeland because
you can definitely
that's his name.
That. Yeah,
that's his name.
Why don't you start off, Chris?
Lake from Lakeland says, if it's a ship that I haven't been on, one of my favorite parts is just walking around, exploring, and familiarizing myself with the ship. Also, I love filming a ship tour video, so it's kind of a double whammy. Lake from Lakeland, friend of the show, has a YouTube channel, so I think filming those ship tour videos is his jam.
Yeah, Mouse Chen, go over and check it out. He's got quite a few videos out there. Jeremy says mixology class, so he may be in your mixology class, Rebecca, after you get done watching Chris's daughter. Tequila tasting, excursions, excellent food, great staff. Picking just one thing is too tough, though.
Donna is really mixing it up here with ditching the kids for a breakfast at Cabanas without them after, of course, she does her sunrise run on deck 4. I'm all about that run on deck 4. I really love that.
And why is she going to Cabanas then? I feel like if you're ditching the kids, you should have that sit-down breakfast at the Royal Court. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so she also says that she likes to go to the lounge, which, Christy, you would know. She must be talking about the concierge lounge because she says she likes to get cans of Diet Coke instead of the fountain soda. So Donna really has it all planned out, as I can tell.
She's ready for that next cruise already, doesn't she? So
yeah, she is ready.
All right, so Chad's my guy. Funnel vision with a cooler of beer. I like that. Nice warm day floating through the Caribbean. Honestly, though, more than anything, it's just the total vibe of the ship. So he's going with you, Rebecca, and shutting off for the week. My favorite part of cruising.
Multiple people have listed the ice cream machine, so I think we would be remiss not to mention the bottomless ice cream machine that closes every day around, 8 or 9. It's not open all night. You can go and get, included, don't call it free, included ice cream at the pool deck. They often have a fun flavor that they rotate in and out. So it's like vanilla, chocolate, and then the wild card flavor, which you can get pretty much every day.
Rebecca, do you have a favorite?
I'm all for the vanilla and chocolate mix.
Swirl.
Yep.
Love it. Dennis goes, I love everything about rotational dining on the Disney ships and the variety in the menu. Even if some people think the food is just average, I love getting to know the servers. I love the built-in entertainment. I like the food, Dennis. I love the built-in entertainment at the various venues. I love discussing the day with my family over dinner on a cruise. I'm with you there. I so hope I get to do this again soon.
So Nathan has a mix on the ice cream, so I'll read Nathan's next. Sitting on my veranda, love a good veranda, the ice cream specifically from the specialty shop, which I think some might refer to as gelato. And Nathan says, I actually had a dream about cruising last night and was disappointed in myself for not getting enough ice cream.
Fantastic.
Oh, Nathan.
I love it.
You're not even living your best life in your dreams.
Jen says Paola, so she's going to be up there with Paola with you guys. Ice cream cones, being home, laughing out loud, not. Service, rocking asleep, room service, rocking asleep, I do like that too. Room service, tropical drinks, and swimming, Castaway Cay.
I'll also mention, I don't think we've mentioned Jeremy yet. Jeremy's going a more adult route here with mixology classes, tequila tastings, excursions, and excellent food, great staff. Honestly, it's hard to pick just one.
I'm going to continue with Derry, and Derry, I really feel for Derry. She's been a friend of the podcast for a long time, and she's still waiting to go on that first cruise, and they keep getting canceled. But she goes, I want my kids to feel unafraid, to be out in the world again, meeting new people from many places and cultures, and to nurture a love of adventure in them. And I mean, that's been such a huge part of travel with us and our family, and using Disney Cruise Line to do that with our kids.
That's so special. I have no doubt that she'll be able to go sometime in the foreseeable future, and I know it really, really stinks to have to keep moving the date, I'm sure, or have to keep rescheduling.
John says that feeling of relaxation which starts the minute I step on board, kind of what you said, Rebecca.
So Laura, woman after my own heart, the allergy-friendly dining, dinner at Remy, the beautiful views from the ship, and overall ambiance, incredible service.
And Jenny, she talks about Cabanas. I miss Cabanas. My BFF, the ice cream machine. I think Jenny and Alex are up there, our youngest, all the time. Paolo, sensing a theme here. I do. So I think we have 2 more to go. Vicky and Bradley. You want to jump on those 2, Chrissy?
Vicky wants to, another woman after my own heart. I love our listeners. Relaxing without a care in the world.
And then Bradley says, just being on the boat. And I think we can all agree with that last one, just being back on the boat. So as we finish up, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming back on and being part of our show today. And thank you for all you've done for us over the last year, being with us on episode 164. And I'm super glad that you went on that dream ship, because you were meant to meet Cinderella, and she got that note out to Prince Charming to have him show up in your life. So I wish you all the best there as well.
Oh, thank you guys so much. He'll appreciate hearing that.
See, I would be like, you can't listen to this. That's a lot of pressure. So good for you.
Just listened to the last episode, actually, like a week or so ago. Finally got him to listen. Because I'm like, you've got to hear the podcast I'm always talking about. And you've got to hear why I love Disney cruises so much. And this is the only way I know how to show you, because I can't take you on one yet.
I love that.
And we hope that's right around the corner. Well, thanks again, Rebecca, for coming on. All the best to you and everything going on in your life. And we look forward to, if not seeing you on board when we're sailing with the kids, and maybe I'll be in mixology with you, because my kids will probably, I don't know if you can track them down or not, but definitely I think Blake and Chris's daughter would love to hang out with you for a while. So thanks so much for coming back on, and all the best. And we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Rebecca for coming on and helping us as we take a look back on the year without cruising, and also looking forward at each and every one of you who answered our Facebook post that we read at the very end. Thank you so much for helping us participate and bring this episode out as we look forward to the ships once again sailing sometime here, hopefully in 2021 or maybe into 2022. I think between the 4 of us, and I know all of you that come back and listen each and every week, where hope springs eternal. And someday soon we will all be back out there sailing and traveling again. Well, I'd like to remind you that we have kind of a new sponsor. It's Just Cruises and Vacations. They're an independent agent. They are a Disney earmarked agency, and that is part of the network that Christy is part of. So each time, if you do not have a travel agent and you would like to work with a travel agent, you could reach out to Christy. Each and every person who books through Christy, a small portion will come back to our show. And she is a fee-free agent, and she will quote you the same prices that you would quoted if you book through Disney alone. We would like to also give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so through our Patreon program. Go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast, and you can find out all the information there. Well, if you'd like to join our show and talk either Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise Line, or Run Disney, you can reach out to me, Steve, at DCLpodcast.com, and we'll get you lined up and set up for an upcoming show. We'd also like to thank each and every one of you who've gone over to iTunes and left us a review lately. We sure do appreciate that. That helps us get the show known a little bit better in the cruising, Disney cruising, and just the travel community in general. So thank you, each and every one of you who take the time to go over there and do that. We sure do appreciate it. Well, between now and our next show, if you are heading out on a vacation, a staycation, or just trying to get the kids through school, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you and your families just be well out there, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.